Yeah, that is correct. Uh, and I must admit, I was very ignorant of the law up until about, actually I started my research when the housing bubble actually took, actually it was before the housing bubble that took place and the economy started going south. I actually had started studying a little bit about law then. But the primary reason I got involved in the legal aspect really goes back to having a balanced perspective and consciousness or self-awareness or awareness period. And one of the problems I had was what we have historically been taught as a people relating to our status, and we'll get into that in this class. We'll definitely be talking about status. We'll be talking about jurisdiction. But it's important for us to at least have a foundational understanding of this system called law and what it really is and how it actually works. Because we always talk about our rights, and our right. And I got a right to do this, and I have a right to do that. So there are many myths, I call them, belief systems and beliefs and ideals that we have as it relates to the system of law, in which in reality just is not true. So we want to at least give you a foundational understanding of it, things that you can do to protect yourself. And one of the reasons why I'm only going to give first names in this class is for the simple reason I need it. That's just the way it needs to be. I won't be saying anything that will be combative. However, I will share with you what I've come to learn to be the truth. Tonight, after the class is over, I'll be sending everybody an email that will give you a link to where you'll be able to go and download, in case you don't have any, the law books, law dictionaries, like Black's Law Dictionary. Anyway, I'm going to give you a link where you'll be able to go and download the information. Plus, in the course of this class, during the course of this class, I will give you the information. I will give you the research that I have done. And it's extensive. I mean, literally extensive. But one of the things that bothers me is in this legal system that we are in, we are more likely than any other people to be incarcerated. On any given day, in any given city, go to any given courthouse, and you will find that the preponderance of people who are being in that system is us. And we are herded through like we are cattle, Am I right? And so often we're led down the road because we have another problem. It's strange that we just take white folk for granted. We tend to think that they're going to tell us what's the truth. They got our interests at heart, and that's just really not the case, especially when it comes to the legal system. So we want to explore some of the concepts. We want to look at actually what these things actually mean and how they apply to us. I have people that I have been in conversation with who literally have gotten themselves caught up in some situations that they could have easily avoided, but they did not avoid them. So now they're having to pay the consequences of not doing what they needed to do. Okay, are there any questions anyone have any comments they want to make right now?
Not at the present time.
No.
Go ahead.
What'd you say?
No, not
Nope.
here. Not at the present time.
I didn't understand you, Brother Rafiq.
Oh, not at the present time.
Oh, okay, I got you now. Not the president. Okay, got you. All right. All right, let's get started.
Okay.
You'll notice I refer to it as the United States, or basically the United States legal system. Because the reality is not the United States. It is actually the United Snakes. I want to begin this class with a very thorough foundational understanding, especially tonight. I'm going to call this class basically the introductory class because I want to deal with some of the myths that we have as it relates to the legal system. And I know that we have a lot of them because the reality is we have not been educated, instructed in what is actually true. We've actually been instructed to be subjects of or slaves of. And that's a bad spot to be in. So we talk about rights, but we have, we don't really know what all this means. Because when you start talking about what is the United States, for instance, let's just explore some of what we think we know. What is the United States? Anyone?
So supposed to be a correlation of all the different states within the union, within this various area.
Are you talking about a nation? Or are you talking about a corporation?
Well, my concept of it was a nation, but I've learned now it's more of a corporation than a nation.
Okay. One, and this was weird to me. A lot of things I would hear on television, news reports and so forth, did not make sense in what they were saying. But when you understand the language, and that's very important, there's nothing more important to our understanding than for us to understand language and how language is used to enslave a people. And so we historically, to this very day, have been enslaved through a use of language. Give you an example. When I ask the question, what is the United States? The average person has no clue that in fact there are at least 6 definitions for the United States.
Wow.
And each definition is determined according to the context in which it is being utilized or being used. I like to break language down because semantics is what's happening. It's a game that's being played. So when we talk about even the word context, we're talking about, if we break it down, the text part has to do with information or knowledge, but the con part has to do with a trick. So in essence, we end up with false information. So when we talk about the United States, most people don't really have a clue what the United States is. They think that the president is talking about the federal government and the 50 states. That's what people automatically think. But that's not true. It all depends upon what is the context that he's using. Because the reality is they're all speaking a con. They're playing a game. And the game is against you. The other myth that we often have is, let me break for a minute. Good evening, Sherry. I can see Sherry, but I can't hear Sherry. Sherry, can you hear me? If you can, put something in the chat down there, just say that you can hear. Okay, I'm going to go ahead on while, I guess Sherry, I don't know if she can hear us or not. I hope she can. What is another myth that we have? For instance, if I ask the question, are we citizens of the United States? I mean, it sounds like it's a trick question, but it's not meant to be a trick question. It's actually meant to bring forth some of the ideas that we have and beliefs that we have surrounding the legal system, which just is not the case.
We think of ourselves as citizens.
Yes, we think of ourselves as citizens. Why do we do that? But I guess before,
according to the Constitution, I suppose, we believe that the Constitution is supposed to apply to us. So in that, we think we're citizens because of what the Constitution states.
Okay, and you're absolutely correct. We think we're citizens because of what the Constitution says. But when did we get that idea? Because prior to the Civil Rights Movement, we didn't have that idea.
Oh wow!
I'm getting somebody's.
I think that we got that idea after we were given certain privileges.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sherry's having a problem with her microphone. Her
The
audio
privileges
is
as
not.
opposed to right.
Huh?
I said privileges as opposed to right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and this is why I say semantics is so important, because I asked the second question without even answering the first question. Because if you knew the answer to what is the United States, then you could easily determine whether or not, based on context, whether or not you qualify as a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing, from a legal standpoint, I'm sorry, somebody saying something? Sherry, I see you trying to talk, but your sound is not coming through. Hello, is that Sherry?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay, I can hear you fine now. You finally got sound. Would you go ahead and introduce yourself? Go ahead and introduce yourself, if you will. Just your first name.
I'm Sherry.
And you're from?
I'm from Mississippi.
Okay. And why are you in this class?
I am interested in broadening my horizons and getting a better understanding of law.
Okay, because I'm getting a lot of feedback from you too, I think.
Yeah, it's an echo.
Yeah, serious.
I also.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Okay, I was talking about the many myths that we have as it relates to the legal system, and especially as it relates to our status. One of the things that I mentioned earlier was the aspect of what is the United States in terms of definition. And one of the common beliefs that we have surrounding that is you're talking about the 50 states of the Union. And in actuality, it always depends upon the context that that particular phrase is being utilized. And normally, politicians will not tell you what the context is because they run a con. So they don't have to tell you what the context is. Anyway, so that's just some of the myths that we deal with. The question of citizenship is another myth that we deal with, because according to the Constitution, which we want to look at the Constitution in this course now as well, because it's important that we understand the so-called document that founded this nation, or that this mountain of lies was in fact built upon, because in actuality you can't find a nation when the people that are already there are there. So if we want to be really clear in terms of the definition of what the United States is, of America, you would simply have to say the United States of America is a conquest. Everybody got that? Conquest. And I say that it is a conquest because the indigenous people of this land were the original people of the land. And it was through conquest that the so-called United States was established.
Okay.
Now, let me ask you another question. Is the Constitution for everybody?
No. No, well, not for us anyway, as a people.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
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 Okay, I'm not hearing anyone.
Hello, can you can't hear us?
I can hear you. I can hear.
We can hear you.
Okay, I lost sound for a minute. Would you? Somebody was speaking.
Yeah, well, you asked the question, was the Constitution for everybody?
Right.
No, it's not. Well, it's not for, I recently found out it's not for us as a people, no.
And yep, you're absolutely correct. It's not for us. We've been led to believe that it was, but in fact,
Correct.
let's we're going to get into this. Let's get into it because there's some historical things we need to understand. And when the United States was formed, how many colonies were involved?
13.
13 colonies. So it was 13 colonies that actually signed the Constitution or became a party to the Constitution, right?
Correct.
If 13, okay, since only 13 colonies were a part of the Constitution, that meant that everybody who comes and joins themselves to the Constitution later are not really part of the Constitution in terms of law.
Okay.
So when you're talking about the history of the nation or as it relates to the legal system and the structuring of laws and how these things are playing out, then you have to understand that the original Constitution consisted of 13 colonies. These 13 colonies were declared by themselves to be sovereign states. You got it? They were sovereign. They were sovereign states. In that relationship between the federal government, United States, and the states, the colonies who were sovereign, they had all kinds of problems, major problems. Financial problems because he was all sovereign. They had issues of trade, global trade problems because even though you had the United States, the colonies were sovereign colonies. Therefore, it restricted trade on a global level. So they had many problems that developed as a result of the formation of the United States of America, or later becomes America, but the formation of the United States. So with all the problems taking place and the Constitution being ratified, now our people are under the misguided belief that somehow we have rights.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to ask the question, what is law? What is law?
Well, it's not what we think it is, for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But in order for us to understand law, we have to be able to articulate what law is. Because remember, everybody's looking at stuff from their own paradigm. So when you're looking at it from your own paradigm, you're comparing it to something. So there has to be some idea behind your comparison that you're using to compare it to. But what really is law?
A system of rules and regulations that we ought to abide by.
Okay, everybody agree with that? It's a system of rules and regulations that we're to abide by?
That's fair.
I would say the ability to force one to do someone else's will.
Okay, wow.
Wow, okay, you said, brother, I'm still pronouncing your name incorrectly. Say your first name again, please.
Rafik.
Rafif. Okay, all right. You say it's the ability to force someone to do something that's against their will.
Their will, not force. Correct.
Is that what I understood you to say?
It's not about what's right or wrong. The ability that I can push you to do my will, whether you want to or not.
So it's not about what right or wrong.
Now,
I think it's a set of rules put in place to trap you.
Okay. Set of rules put in place to trap you.
Yeah, that's my personal opinion. Because I think it's a set of rules that are put in place to trap you.
Okay. You know, and one of the reasons why I'm doing this class this particular way tonight is because I want to get you all's input. I do not believe in telling people what to think. And most of you who are here know that I just don't go down that path. I do believe in sharing what I know to be the truth, and then people make their own decision from that. When it comes to law, we have to look at law in the sense of how we look at natural law. It is what it is. When it comes to universal law, it is never the issue of right or wrong. Is that correct?
Right.
Like,
It is never the issue of whether or not you agree or disagree.
right.
It's never the issue of whether or not you can accept it or not accept it. That's never the case when it comes to law. When I think of law, and this perhaps will help some people, because the reality is many times we look at the legal system we are in. And if we actually took that legal system we're in, the man-made system, and compared the man-made system to the natural law, then we would understand that even in the system of natural law, there are systems, right? There are systems that govern everything in natural law. And those systems in natural law do not ask you for your opinion, do not care about how you feel about it.
Right.
They're going to work regardless to whether you agree with it or not.
Right.
Are you following me?
Right. Yes.
This is what law is. It's what it is. It's what it does. It's non-discriminatory. So even the legal system that we're in, believe it or not, was based upon natural law. Please believe me, Europeans did not create the system of law that they call jurisprudence. They did not create this system of law by osmosis. They have gone back into our history. They have learned our history. They have learned what our ancestors understood about natural law. They've taken those concepts, they're taking those principles of law and of governing and applied those principles. How else can you explain a people who make up a minority of the world's population yet controls the entire world?
Yeah. Always been a mystery to me, man. I've always wondered about that.
That's how they do it. They're functioning off of natural law. You know, when I come to the awareness of certain things when it came to law, you know, you see a lot of stuff we call unjust. And yes, there's a lot of injustice that takes place in the legal system, man-made legal system. There's a lot of injustice that take place. Yet at the same time, if we compare or look the comparing and contrasting of these two, of natural law and the legal system that we're in, we will find that they're very much similar. The only difference is because of the people who are spearheading the system of man-made law, are unscrupulous, then you see the injustice that actually takes place.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to give my definition of law. That is what it is. It's what, I call law is what it is. It is the maintenance of the balance. In Europeans' perspective, is the maintaining of the balance of power and to make sure that they remain the ones with the power.
So
But
would
in
it
that,
be safe to say that, Eddie, that the law, the system in which we live in is an attempt to mimic the natural law, but it lacks the self-governing part that the natural law has?
that's correct. That would be safe. That would be safe to say. Can everybody see this screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
As you can see here, this is the symbol that they have that represents Lady Justice. And it's interesting, and I don't want to get off base, but certain aspects of the legal system we're in and of the life the world in which we live in is based on an energy of the female. And I find it very interesting that that the way in which they depict law and justice is in that of the female. Ain't that deep? Even the Statue of Liberty is a female. So Lady Justice is seated here and is depicted as a goddess equipped with three symbols of justice: a sword symbolizing the court's coercive power, making you do what you don't want to do; scales representing an objective standard by which competing claims are weighed; and a blindfold indicating that justice is or should be meted out objectively, without fear or favor, regardless of power, money, wealth, or identity. That is the ideal concept of justice. That is not the system we're living in.
No, sir.
So I want to break from this for a minute. Okay. By definition, law is a system of rules and guidelines which are enforced through social institutions to govern behavior. Laws are made by governments, especially by their legislatures. The formation of laws themselves may be influenced by a constitution, written or unwritten, and the rights encoded therein. The law shapes politics, economics, and society in countless ways and serves as a social mediator of relations between people. A general distinction can be made between civil law jurisdictions, including canon and socialist law. Anyone familiar with canon law?
Little bit, not totally.
Okay. All right. So when you're talking about canon law, we got to go back again. We got to go back to history. And one of the things you got to learn, if nothing else, is that in order for you to understand truly what's happening right now, you cannot grasp what is going on now until you have a clear understanding of what is happening in the past. As Dr. John Henry Clark said it most best, the events which transpired 5,000 years ago, 500 years ago, 5 days ago, or 5 minutes ago are all a current event. All of history is a current event. One cannot understand the present unless they understand the past, because that past is what brought us to the present. We clear?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
All right. So to understand the European system of law, jurisprudence that we're in, you cannot understand it until you go back to Rome. Because, in fact, the American system of jurisprudence is based on Roman canon law. That's where you that's one of the reasons why in the American jurisprudence system you have the three branches of government: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. You have the House of Representatives, same thing that came out of Rome, and you have the Senate. And if you remember from your history class in school, you remember that the Roman Senate was the most powerful aspect of their law,
Right.
as well as the most corrupt. That hasn't changed. That's still happening today based on canon law. And we're going to look at canon law in this class because canon law going to blow your mind. And one of the problems we have is we have been so conditioned in our thought process until it's actually hindering us from seeing what's really going on.
Okay.
Okay? So until we get clear, we're going to remain locked up. Okay, and it says a general distinction, in which the legislature or the central body codifies and consolidates their laws in common law systems, including Islamic law, where judge-made binding precedents are accepted. In some countries, religion may inform the law. For example, in jurisdictions that practice Islamic law, Jewish law, or canon law. The adjudication of the law is generally divided into two main areas. Criminal law deals with conduct that is considered harmful to social order and in which the guilty party may be imprisoned or fined. Civil law, not to be confused with civil law jurisdictions above, deals with the resolution of lawsuits, disputes between individuals or organizations. These resolutions seek to provide a legal remedy, often monetary damages, to the winning litigant. So this is their definition of what they define as law. However, there's an old expression that better defines their definition of law. And that old expression says this: remember the golden rule. He who holds the gold makes the rules.
Yeah. So true.
That literally defines their system of law that we're dealing with today. Verena, can you hear me? I see you here.
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. You want to, I just gave out your first name, so you can tell the class where you're from.
Memphis, Tennessee.
And why are you here?
I'm here to learn the deal, the real deal.
Again, I thank you all for having that confidence. Okay, so we just looked at how they define law. So I'm going to be switching back and forth on some things here because I want us tonight to kind of deal with some of the myths that we have as it relates to the system of law and try to clear up those myths. Let's backtrack for a second. When we go back to the Constitution of the United States, there are two aspects of that Constitution. One is defined as de facto. The other is defined as de jure. By de facto, you're talking about that which is considered to be legally law, but not necessarily lawfully law. The jure law is based upon the original Constitution of the United States. No amendments, only the original articles of Constitution for the United States. That is lawful de jure law. That is the law of the land. Y'all follow it? De facto law would be anything that comes after the original becomes de facto, declared to be law in fact. That is de facto law. Somebody say something? Sandra, is that you?
Who?
Sandra.
Can you hear me?
Who was that?
It's Roy. I ain't got on mute. I'm going to put it on mute. I'm sorry.
Okay, Roy. Okay, gotcha.
Sorry.
Roy Kent.
Yes, sir.
All right, brother. I was just making sure that was you. Oh, you're not on the computer tonight. You're on the phone.
I couldn't get on the computer. I couldn't figure it out.
You couldn't figure it out.
I mean, I'm not going back on it. I just came in the house.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Getting back to the Constitution. One of the things we got to stop thinking is that the Constitution gives us rights. You have no rights if you're not a party to the Constitution. And I know I'm saying some stuff right now, but I'm going to give you court cases. I'm going to give you the legal determinations by law where you will actually see what the court has actually ruled and said. For instance, one of the most famous cases is the Dred Scott decision. Everybody familiar with Dred Scott decision, right?
Yeah.
Dred Scott versus Sanford, 1800s. And the results of that Supreme Court decision was that a black man has no rights whereby what the white man must respect. That case still stands today. Not overturned and cannot be overturned. And it could not be overturned for one simple reason. In terms of the legal system, if you're not a party to any contract, and the Constitution, by the way, is just another contract. When you're not a party to a contract, you have no right to speak.
Okay.
Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Give you an example. If you're married, you probably went out and got yourself a marriage contract. Why?
That's what the law requires.
Huh?
The law requires you to have a marriage license in the state of Tennessee before you can get married.
Really? Are you sure about that?
Actually, you can design your own contract.
So when it comes to marriage, you know, you're not legally recognized, you know, by any state or even the country if that contract does not exist.
I just love this. 'Cause we're dealing with some legal myths.
Okay.
Okay? And I say that because I want to take you back to law. Let me be very clear. It is necessary, it is essential that as indigenous people, as first Americans, you fully understand that you were endowed by your creator, creatress.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. You were endowed with unalienable rights.
Mm.
That's natural law. Animals do not go and ask for permission to cohabitate with each other.
No, they don't.
That's natural. It is natural that male and female would come together, create families. That's natural. Who has the right to insist that you produce a license?
Okay.
Y'all follow me?
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. You agreed to contract. It wasn't enough that you and him or you and her decided that you wanted to spend the rest of your lives with each other. You decided to also agree that the state should be a party to your relationship.
Yeah.
Ain't that deep?
Yes.
You surrendered your natural right for the sake of a state right privilege. That's what is happening. Everything now that that we believe that we have to do, no, we don't have to do. We only have to do because we don't know we don't have to do.
Oh, shit.
And that's the whole point of having this class, is to make sure that we understand that there's certain things you don't have to do. Going back, but again, you have to declare who you are. Government has a presumption of law. And under their definition of presumption of law, if they assume anything about you, it is true, unless you be grown up and responsible and have the capacity to speak for yourself. Going back to de facto and de jure law, all de facto law is based upon contracts. You waiver your unalienable right. You give up your God-given rights. You give up your creator's giving right. You give up your life-giving rights for the sake of a benefit or a privilege.
Wow.
Am I making sense?
Yes. Yep.
So how do we get back our rights? Because that's what this class is going to really kind of focus on. How do we get back our rights? How do we take a stand for our rights? By first understanding what is happening. Because if you don't understand what has happened, what has led you to the point, led you into the system that you're in, guess what? History will repeat itself. It's called life cycle. It's called the law of physics. An object in motion remains in motion unless it is acted upon by a greater external force.
Mm-hmm.
This is law. Natural and what we might look at as unnatural. But it is what it is. Any questions so far?
Go ahead.
All right. Y'all familiar with this particular judge, Andrew Napolitano? Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah.
I know my brother in New York had heard of it.
Yep, he had a show that took it off the air.
Exactly, exactly. You know, this brother is pretty interesting because he was a former Superior Court judge in the state of New Jersey. And he made a statement, and I got it here, and I'm going to try to play it in a second. It's a news clip where he was interviewed on the news. And I just want to show you how often the truth is right before our eyes, but we don't see it. But some of the books that this guy wrote was in The Constitutional Chaos. What happens when the government breaks its own laws? A criticism of the American justice system. In 2006, he wrote another book entitled The Constitution in Exile, how the federal government has seized power by rewriting the supreme law of the land, And then another book he wrote, third book, A Nation of Sheep. In 2009, he wrote The Dred Scott's Revenge, A Legal System of Race and Freedom in America was released. Okay. The fifth book, Lies the Government Told You, Myth, Power, and Deception in American History. The other last book, It is Dangerous to Be Right When the Government is Wrong. The Cases for Personal Freedom.
Wow.
Awesome books. But most significantly is the fact, and this is what I want to get at. Here is a European Italian who says, in essence, y'all living in a dream world. The system of government that you're living under is not real.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of the things he deals with in his books are in fact law. And the blinders that have been pulled over our eyes to make us believe something that is not true. So you ask the question, how does the government get away with doing certain things that they do that violates the Constitution? I'm going to ask this question. I think some of y'all probably already know the answer. How is it, I'm going to change that. What is the most powerful tool that the government uses to control the masses of people? To control all of them. What is the greatest tool in the Constitution that they use?
In the Constitution.
In the Constitution. Which article of the Constitution gives them the greatest power that has placed us in the situation we are now in?
I think it's our willingness to submit to certain things when we shouldn't submit.
And that would be, somebody's got radio on.
I think it's fear causing us to be afraid of certain things.
Okay.
You said the article in the Constitution.
I said the Constitution, yeah.
Okay.
See, because what they're doing is actually lawful and is actually legal. It doesn't matter whether we agree with it or not. It's actually lawful and it's actually legal because the document that they have, which is the Constitution of the United States, gives them this kind of power.
Exactly.
Oh, in the article of the Constitution, you said?
Yes. Rafiq, what'd you think? Y'all studying on that one, huh?
You mean like a third portion of it, like the amendments or something? What?
That's not an amendment. It's part of the lawful Constitution. It's actually the juror law. Article 1, Section 10. Let me pull that out.
It talks about no limitations of individual in the United States, huh? Article 1, paragraph 10, right?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Article 1, Section 10.
Yeah.
What does it say?
Limitations of individual states.
Okay.
No treaties, letters, or marquee or rephrasal. No coining of money, bills of credit. Not allowed to make anything but gold and silver. Coin intended in payment of debt. No bills of a
Attainder.
Ex post facto law or law impairing the obligation of contract.
Say it again.
Title of liability. State imposed and duties. Further restrictions on state powers.
All right. In what he just read, did everybody hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The most important power that government utilizes based on the Constitution to literally enslave the masses is found in what he just read. And it says this, that Congress cannot pass any laws abridging the obligation of contracts.
Right.
Which means
There can be no legislation passed by Congress that would prohibit or stop the making and enforcing of contracts. Your marriage license is a contract.
Right.
It is a privilege granted to you by law. Ain't that deep? You give law more power than you give the Creator.
Wow.
Your driver's license is a contract.
Okay.
It's a contract. Everything that happens today is based on a contract. It is how government gets its power. Let me show you how they manage to do that. One of the primary ways is they dangle in front of you some kind of a benefit. Social Security, workman's compensation.
Right.
All of these types of protections that you think you're getting are in fact contracts that you're entering into. So government utilizes contracts to do what it cannot do constitutionally. Making sense?
All right.
Yeah, we're submitting to that unknowingly.
Exactly. That's,
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
You're agreeing wholeheartedly to be bound by the terms of the contract.
Wow. Now that is deep.
Because here's what happens under law. You have what the I may have to pull up my other computer. I'm having a little difficulty. But you have what the law defined as in the Constitution. It says that you have the right to travel. Unrestricted.
Unrestricted, yeah.
Free ingress and egress. In and out this country, in and out the state. So what did government do? Government tricked you to believe that you needed a driver's license. So you entered into a contract for the driver's license. Not only did you enter the contract for the driver's license, but you also entered into an agreement to surrender ownership of your personal automobile so that you would have the privilege of allowing the state to let you have a title to the automobile rather than actual certificate of ownership.
Of ownership, yeah.
Every vehicle manufacturer comes with, and I'm using a smaller term, it comes with what is known as a birth certificate. They call it a certificate of manufacturer origin, or a manufacturer's certificate of origin would be better. It's what they refer to it as. That's a birth certificate. That is no different than the birth certificate you probably are in possession of when you were born and they issue a birth certificate. If you were to check the manufacturer's certificate of origin with your birth certificate, you would find that the information contained on both are almost identical. Both items, certificates, both birth and manufacturers, both of those items are in the category of legal category of being called a warehouse receipt. A warehouse receipt is simply a birth certificate which describes the property.
Property?
Y'all hear what I just said?
I heard that.
It describes the property. It tells when the property was manufactured. In our case, when you were born. It tells the manufacturer's certificate of origin gives the identification or the address of where that particular property was birthed at. These instruments are no different. So these instruments that become the warehouse receipt actually provides ownership for someone else. So the title to your vehicle gives you permission to own the vehicle, basically actually just leasing the vehicle, to be honest about it.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Because every year you gotta re-register.
Yeah,
You gotta,
taxes and all
you gotta
that,
pay
yeah.
personal property taxes on it. All of these are contracts. Everything that the system has done is based upon utilizing that Article 1 of the Constitution, which grants Congress power to never be able to legislate anything related to the making or breaking or enforcing a contract. So all government today functions on the basis of contract. So we can get into the argument. They get us distracted. They get you distracted by getting you into petty arguments over certain things that really ain't got nothing to do with nothing.
Right.
Petty distractions. For instance, Obamacare. I don't care about Obamacare.
Right.
People say, well, that was a great plan. Yeah, if you want to be a slave, it's an excellent plan.
Yeah.
Because again, everything that government offers you is based on contract. And whenever you go into a contract, you end up waiving your rights. You follow me? You waiver, you surrender your natural God-given right for the sake of a privilege.
Wow.
And a disguised benefit.
And what?
A disguised benefit.
Well, it's totally disguised because you got to remember, even the benefit of Social Security was a disguise. The average life expectancy of the average life expectancy of a black man in America today is 60 years of age. So, if he can't retire until he's 65, but he's been paying into the system for 50 years or 40 years, who comes out ahead?
The government does.
Thank you. So how's that a benefit? Why would you surrender your right to keep that money to yourself, that resources to yourself, and invest it yourself? At least you can use it while you're living.
Right.
I'm just throwing this out here, y'all.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Just to illustrate the concept and the ideas that go into contracting, because that's really what the legal system has designed itself to do right now, and that is initiate contracts. So whenever they say we want to do this for you, it ain't never about you. Don't ever think that it is about you. It's never about you. It is always about the maintenance of the system.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions? Comments?
No.
Yeah, so like the sister mentioned a moment ago, then we have been tricked into giving them permission to do what they do to us.
That's correct.
In our ignorance of the law. Right?
That's correct. And remember that they give you what is known, there's certain expressions that you won't find in law, written in legal law language or law itself, but there are certain things that came out of Roman law that became known as the maxims of law. And those are things that are understood and well defined to be foundational concepts and foundational rules that govern law. One of those foundational rules, and they'll tell you in a heartbeat, that ignorance of the law is what? No excuse. No excuse.
Okay.
No excuse. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. That is a maximum of law. So when you are speeding, doing 55 in a 35, and the officer pulls you over, and you say, but I didn't know the speed limit was 35 down through here, they still give you your ticket.
Oh, you should have known.
Correct, because ignorance of the law is no excuse. That's the maximum of law. It is the foundation which the law rests upon. Because the system of law says that it's not our responsibility to teach you law, and they're right. But at the same time, what they did teach you were designed to make sure that you were dumbed down, that you could not think. So the system of contracts laws could actually operate upon you. And they've done a good job of that. So when we talk about the U.S. system of law, and we're talking about jurisprudence, jurisprudence is the U.S. and international legal system is based on a concept known as jurisprudence, which originated in the Roman Senate. The etymology of the word is derived from two Roman roots, one of them being juris and the other is prudence, and the Latin words for justice and prudence. You know, people holler about, well, when we going to get some justice? I don't know what they mean. And I don't think that they recognize what they're meaning. Because we're under the assumptions that there should be fairness. Am I correct?
Right.
Why do we want things to be fair?
That's how we are.
Huh?
Charles Darwin told us survival of the fittest.
That's how we are towards one another, but not according to the law.
That's correct. And not only that, let me ask this question. Does it make sense from a nature perspective?
Yes. Right.
That,
Exactly. Yeah.
huh?
To get along.
To get along?
To get along with one another, that's the reason why you would want to be just or fair with one another.
Okay, all right. See, I prefer the use of the word just because in my perspective, and somebody can correct me if they think it's wrong, in my perspective, the word fairness is a man-made word.
Right.
Yeah.
The word just is, in my perspective, a universal, natural word. And I say it this way because For instance, give you an example. If a tornado comes and hits in a community, and it hits, let's say, Felicia's house, but it leaves mine standing, I would not dare say to myself, that ain't fair, would I?
Nope.
No.
Of course
you
not.
can say it, but it ain't gonna matter.
Right, exactly. You're right. I can say it, but what I'm getting at is nobody thinks like that when nature does what nature by nature does.
Right.
When things happen by natural,
They say it's an act of God.
that's correct. So when things happen by natural process, we don't say, well, you know, that ain't fair. Because we understand that it's just. Because under universal law, the rain falls on the just as well as the unjust.
Yeah.
Under natural law, Creator, God, whatever choice of words you would like to use, is no respecter of person. That's natural law.
Okay.
When you understand that natural law and even man-made law actually kind of go hands in hand because they're operating from the paradigm of natural law. They just tend to manipulate it in their favor.
Okay. So that's why we expect then for things to be just from a legal perspective, because that's how it's supposed to be. So we expect that from our system, and of course we don't get that. We expect that naturally because that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I follow you, and we do expect that, but we don't expect it from a natural perspective, though. We expect it from a human perspective, but not a natural perspective.
I got you. Yeah, humanistic. Yeah, I got you.
We expect it from an emotional paradigm, but not from a logical paradigm.
Okay.
And oftentimes we're disappointed with the system of law because we're not thinking about the system of law rationally, nor are we thinking about the system of law from a natural law perspective. We're looking at it from the emotional paradigm. And yet you don't look at nature from an emotional paradigm.
I got you.
You look at life, you look at nature the way nature is. Nature has only one concern when it comes to the earth, and that is to make sure that the balance is maintained.
Right.
And it's interesting because when it comes to making sure that the balance is maintained, nature does not care about your personal opinion, don't care about your emotional issues, don't care nothing about all the drama and trauma you done had in your life. It's only concerned with the restoration of balance and doing whatever's necessary to bring about that restoration.
Wow. Man, that's deep. When you say it that way, it's the same way how they perceive the law for themselves.
Say it again, I didn't understand you.
When you say it that way, that's how they, since they're the ones who are controlling the system, and since we're using their system of justice, their system of law, that everything will be skewed or turned in the direction which will favor them.
That's correct.
No matter when you go into their court system, they're always going to be geared towards which best benefits their cause.
That's correct. That is correct. But hopefully
If you're saying it like nature, that's the way nature is. For balance, their balance is, I am the person who's giving out justice to you, so therefore, whoever benefits me or my people is the way it will be handed down.
That's correct. That is correct. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And so I always tell people the best thing you can do is try to stay out of their house.
Got that right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. If we look at, again, and I shared this when I was in Chicago, so some of you Brother Rafiq is familiar with it, I think. When you look at the word juris, from the etymology of the word jurisprudence, when you look at the word juris, the meaning that they have given you about law and the reality of what is actually true are not the same. If you look at the word lex, lex is the Latin word for the word law, not juris. I don't know if I can minimize this or not. We'll just do it this way. I'm going to start with lex. And the reason I'm starting with lex is because lex is the meaning that you have been given and we have been given as it relates to law. That's what we're seeing is lex. We're not seeing juris in the system we're in. We're actually experiencing lex. So lex is the Latin word for the word law. Okay? Lex is the machine of state, force, power, and compulsion contained in written form called law. Every statute that they pass, every code that your city implements, every rule, every regulation that they give to you is under this etymology of the word lex. It has nothing to do with justice at all. It has nothing to do with jurisprudence at all. It is all about the lex, law. And it's only law because you've agreed to it being law. Lex is the statutes of fixed precepts, rules, and regulations used by governments to control the people. The law which validates the use of armed force and empowers magistrates. Lex is man-made law for man. This is what we're experiencing, is lex.
Correct.
But we have acquiescence. We've agreed to experiencing lex. We say we want justice, but in fact, how can you really want justice if you do not know what justice is? The original meaning of just is the rule of eternal truth that dictates human consequences in accordance with our actions and failures to act. Remember what I said a minute ago? Nature does not care about your opinion. Natural law does not take a poll to see how you feel about this particular law. It is the natural law that is necessary for the maintenance of balance. Therefore, whether you agree to it or disagree to it, it doesn't matter. It operates upon you regardless of your approval or disapproval. That's just or Jewish. It is the hidden law of nature, what some men call natural law. An unavoidable reality that works behind the scenes to dictate the outcome of our behavior. I'm going to ask a question about that second definition I just read. In reading that second definition, where does your so-called free will come from?
Say that again.
In reading the second paragraph of just that definition, the hidden law of nature, where does our concept of free will come from?
Our perception of our God-given right or our God-given ability.
Where do we get that from?
church.
Some church, yeah. Some church, exactly. Right, sis.
All right. If we got it from church, then perhaps we might want to rethink our perception. I'm just throwing it out here.
Mm-hmm.
Because if in fact, since natural law works behind the scene, and natural law is more powerful and more potent than you are, then perhaps everything else associated with that works in the interest of natural law, whether they are conscious of it or unconscious of it. In other words, because the universe is so well put together and because it's so well fixed, because laws are in place, natural law is in place. You cannot violate natural law without there being built-in consequences.
Okay.
You follow me?
Yeah.
Because everything in the universe operates on a system of sequence. Your heart has a rhythmic beat. That beat is in harmony with the earth beat. That beat is in harmony with the universe beat. It's in sequence. So since it is in sequence, once it moves out of sequence, what do they medically define you having had?
Irregular heartbeat.
Or a heart attack.
Or a heart attack.
Yeah.
Why? Because the natural sequence has been broken. And as a result of the break in the natural sequence, you're going to experience the consequence.
Okay.
That follows with universal law, and it follows even with man law. When man puts into place a law, don't speed over 45 miles an hour. You go over 45 miles an hour, there's consequence.
Right.
Same as natural law. So just is the unseen hand of life that rewards good and punishes evil. No matter what our law may say is right or wrong, it doesn't matter. Natural law rules.
Okay.
Y'all follow me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sherry, I'm not old, so you don't have to say sir.
So Doc, so for one of us to abide in the natural law, we would have to then somehow or another have true that the system is violating natural law. Am I right to put in those terms?
Let me see if I'm understanding you. Say that again.
Okay, and if we are, in order for us to operate under natural law and we are being violated from the man-made, we'd have to then prove that man-made laws are violating the natural laws for us to win.
That's correct.
Okay.
Or, for lack of a better term, I would suggest what we really have to do is remove ourselves from that system of law, whereby we have in fact surrendered and wavered our natural rights.
I see, that makes sense. Okay.
Because you can never expect an unjust people to do justice.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
Right.
It's not their nature. And since I'm on that path, I guess I'll walk down it for a minute. Everything in natural law or in the universe itself, especially in the earth, manifests itself out of the earth. The powers that currently control the system of physical law or the system of man-made law did not flow directly from the earth. That makes sense?
I have no problem with that.
Okay. They don't look like the earth. They don't even blend into the earth. They have no spiritual connection to earth.
Right.
So they cannot respect earth. We, on the other hand, are a people who came forth from the earth. Our energy is directly connected to the earth. And it's unfortunate that the movie Avatar was as powerful as it was, and yet the people were entertained rather than educated. Huh?
Oh, man. Oh, wow, brother. That's true.
Because it illustrates your oneness with the earth.
Yes, sir.
Your oneness with natural law. When you arrive back in the place of your beginning. See, we don't, and I don't mean to go down this path, but y'all just give me a minute. We don't need an atomic bomb to win.
Okay.
We need a reconnection to our roots in order to win.
Yeah.
We need to go back or have that, as the ancient Africans would say, we need to go back and have a Sankofa experience. And reconnecting to what we have lost.
Yeah.
So that we can reach back into the past and bring it into our present.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what's going to happen. Just as Avatar was. When they connected back to the earth, even the animals themselves responded.
Yeah, buddy.
Anyway, all right, didn't mean to go there.
That was good. That was good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was rich.
I'm just clear about where we are and where we need to be headed.
Good.
All right, so eternal truth is never dependent upon public opinions. You know, we can say, well, people are destroying the planet. No, I ain't concerned with that. You know why? Because nature going to take care of that. I am certain that life will do what life needs for the maintenance of life. And balance will be restored. But in the meantime, we got a legal system out here that has over 2 million of our young men incarcerated. We have a legal system out here that is constantly robbing you of your resources because of infractions of what they defined as breaking the law. So we need to be clear about what law is. We need to be clear about our position in the system of law in which we're in. You heard the president probably say that I remember the other debate, and not only the other debate, but on many occasions, you'll hear the term used, this is a great democracy.
Yes. Oh, yes.
You hear that a lot. Do we know what democracy is? Because, I need us to be clear on terms. There are many things that go into making this system of law that you're dealing with. The number one factor that's going into the system is patriarchy.
Right.
That's the overwhelming factor. Patriarchy and conquest are the elements that you're looking at in the system of law. And since these are man-made laws, they have the capacity to change those laws at will, and they do so at will. So what is a democracy? Let's look at what a democracy is. All right, democracy is a form of government in which all eligible citizens have an equal say in decisions that affect their lives.
Really?
I know y'all ain't experiencing that, but that's what your president is trying to sell you on.
Okay.
That we are living, that America is a democratic system, which says that it is a form of government in which all, and notice the definition, all who?
Eligible citizens.
Eligible
Yeah,
citizens.
eligible citizens. Yeah, that's key.
Eligible. Remember I said at the very beginning, the whole system of law is based on the use of semantics. You teach the people in your educational system, you educate them on a connotated meaning of a word, because you already know that the connotated meaning is simply the trick meaning, the deceptive meaning of that word. But that person will be educated walking out thinking that the connotated meaning is the real meaning.
It's what it is, right.
Thereby being easily gullible and deceived.
Sheep.
So even,
A sheep.
That's correct. That is correct. They are sheep, and they literally are sheep. Okay, so, okay. So by their definition, a democracy is a form of government in which all eligible citizens have an equal say in the decision that affects their lives. So if we're going to understand the definition of democracy, we need to know what the word eligible means, and we need to know what the word citizen is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Right.
Yes.
Because we can't assume that it means what we think that it means. You have to be eligible. How do you become eligible in a democracy? Such as the United States. How do you become eligible?
White male landowner.
Yeah.
What'd you say? I didn't catch that.
Criteria.
Somebody said something, I didn't catch it.
I said by meeting their criteria.
That's correct. That meeting their criteria. What are their criteria? The primary criteria to become eligible is your willingness to waiver, give up, surrender your unalienable rights. To contract out your right. Now remember, when they were creating the Constitution, there was discussion about the use of the word unalienable and the use of the word inalienable.
Inalienable, right.
Okay? And it finally came down, it depends on what you read. Some of Jefferson's papers will use the term unalienable, some of them would use the term inalienable. But in the final analysis of the Constitution, you hear them always using the word inalienable.
Right.
And the primary reason why the word inalienable is used is because inalienable by law, by legal definition, are rights which an individual can surrender, waiver, and give up. Those are inalienable. Unalienable rights are rights granted to you by God, the Creator, the divine Allah, whatever we want to call it. Those are rights which you don't even have the right to waiver because you didn't give them to yourself. They were given to you.
Right.
Ooh.
So they trick you into inalienable wavering of your rights. And hopefully, if nothing else in this class, we're going to learn some techniques and strategies so that we can get back our unalienable rights and inalienable rights in which we waver. But under the system of democracy, a democratic form of government is based upon the all eligible citizens. Now, do you really want to be in a democracy? If you got to surrender your inalienable rights.
No.
Nobody does.
No.
And please understand that these terms that they're using are political terms. They're not natural terms.
Okay.
Democracy is a political term. Okay? You're not a political being. You were birthed a social being. And I'm making the distinction now because in the next class, we're going to get into some of these definitions of terms that we're utilizing that we don't fully understand. A political being, by definition, is a body politic. By definition, a political being is a creature of government.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
For lack of a better explanation, a creature of government is in fact a creation of government.
Okay.
Take it a step further. A creation of government is in fact a fictitious, non-living, non-thinking, unselfish, unawares creation of government.
Okay.
It's where you heard the term straw man. I don't use the word
Straw
straw
man.
man, and there's a reason for that. But that's what the whole concept. These are political definitions that are being utilized. Everybody clear on that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, in essence, we really don't want to be in a democracy. Because in that democracy, by virtue of this definition alone, you got to be an eligible citizen. And so when you look up the word citizen, you're going to come back to the word denizen. One who inhabits the countryside, denizen. So, when you look up the word citizens in the law, you have a whole different context. Give me an example, since we're dealing with some myths. Did you not know that it's possible to live in New York? It's possible to live in Kansas City, Kansas. It's possible to live in Memphis, Tennessee, and still not be a citizen of the United States.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Are you following me?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, we're talking about terms, we're talking about semantics, we're talking about the use of definition, the use of language to keep the people in a state of confusion. One definition alone, and we'll get further into this next week in that class, we're going to really break some stuff down. One definition alone of the United States is the District of Columbia and the 10 square miles of the District of Columbia, and the outlying territories, possessions, and islands owned by the United States. That's just one definition of the United States. Just one.
Wow. Okay, just one.
Just one. That's just one. And notice I didn't say anything about the 50 states or the unions.
Right.
Because there's just one definition of the United States. So when it comes to certain aspects of whether or not you are a citizen, if you read the Constitution, which next week we're going to actually pull the Constitution out and get into it, you're going to understand that the Constitution understands that there is a dual class of citizenship. One can be a citizen of a state and not be a citizen of the United States. One can be a citizen of the United States and not be a citizen of a state.
Is that the same as a state national?
Yeah. Or national. Usually the terms that usually come to reference to that is usually national. You're going to have a term like national. You have the term like alien. Huh? And you would have the term like foreigner.
Mm-hmm.
You can be in the United States and be foreign to the United States in terms of citizenship.
Wow.
But nobody told you this in school. So when you go to fill out, and here's the killing part, when you go to apply for a job and certain other things, they ask on that questionnaire, are you a citizen of the United States?
Yeah.
What did most people put?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Now what happens when that happens is, here's the problem. The thing that happens in that scenario is, now you have just agreed to make yourself become responsible for things that the United States does. Now, let me backtrack. When you were in school, at least when I was in school, elementary especially, every morning when we got up in that class, when the bell went off, after the first bell went off, you're supposed to be in class. Every morning, everybody had to get up and turn and face the flag.
Yeah.
Y'all remember that?
To the flag. Yes, sir.
And pledge allegiance to the flag.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
That was all part of your program.
Yeah.
That was all part of your programming, so that you would unconsciously make yourself a citizen of the United States. So now that when you have a form to fill out, and it asks the question of you're a citizen of the United States, you automatically would check yes, even though you have never officially declared your citizenship.
Right. Exactly.
But because you have committed yourself contractually to say that you are, then the presumption of law comes in. And remember what I say in law, a presumption that is unrebutted stands as true. So whatever the law presumes to be true about you is true, unless you rebuke that presumption.
Okay.
So to be in a democracy, you got to be an eligible citizen. But nobody's told you what the definition of a citizen is. Not only have they not told you what the definition of, they haven't even explained to you what are the criteria for being a citizen.
Right. What makes you eligible? Exactly.
That's correct. What makes you eligible? What's the criteria? See, we under the assumption that just because we born in the good old USA, we automatic citizens. I'm going to break that presumption, because all I got to do is take you to look to history. Name me the Negroes that were automatically United States citizens. After the Constitution was formulated. They wasn't. The Constitution left them out altogether.
That's true. Yes. Yeah.
They were not citizens. As a matter of fact, not only did the Constitution leave the Negro out, the Constitution, as it was written and as it was adopted, in fact, from a historical perspective, it also excluded women.
Sure did.
Women were not even a party to the Constitution.
That is true. You're right, brother.
So how can you keep hollering about a right, you got constitutional right, when in fact, historically and from a legal perspective, court cases tell you that that's not true. All right, I got 6 minutes, so I'm going to stop right there and let y'all express yourself. Because I'm going to stay on track. You know, I said 2 hours, and I'm going to hold it to that, even though I could go longer.
Yeah.
So we just looked at democracy. the term that they're using. Now, another thing is you got to understand is when they created this document called Constitution, they were not trying to create a democracy. They were trying to create a republic, a republican form of government, which is different from a democratic or democracy. As a matter of fact, the Constitution is based on a republic form of government. But see, here's the problem. If you keep crying a certain thing long enough and loud enough, the masses of people in their ignorance will believe what you're saying as true. So that they don't understand that there's not a major difference between republic and a democracy.
Right.
So they don't use right now. The governments do not use the word republic. They always say democracy, because if you look at the definition of a republic, it is a form of government in which the country is considered a what?
Public matter.
A public matter.
Right.
Not the private concerns of property of rulers, and where offices of states are subsequently directly or indirectly elected or appointed rather than inherited. So they don't use the term republic anymore. They always talk about the democracy, the democratic system of government. All that smoke and mirrors. The original concept was a republican form of government. And it was supposed to be considered a public matter. Isn't it ironic that in the last 4 years at least, you had Barack come out talking about he wanted government to be more open, more revealing, without using the word republic, even though the reality of it is, in the system of law that we're dealing with, brothers and sisters, we're dealing with two things. One, private law, the other being public law. That's where we are. All right, so I'll stop right there. Got 3 minutes. Anybody want to give comments?
Good.
I'm enjoying the class.
Who said that?
Sherry.
Oh, okay, Sherry. Anyone else enjoy the class tonight? Have been helped by the class tonight? Even though it's just the introduction? Huh?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We just getting started. Y'all ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh yeah, it's awesome, man.
All right.
You going to be sending information to us right via email?
Yeah, I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna send you an email where you can actually go and be able to download your Black's Law books and some other things that will be available for you. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely is. Definitely will be sending that out.
Great, man.
But
I
that's
appreciate this.
huh?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Is that who is that?
I said I appreciate this. Thank you.
Oh, okay, brother. I'm glad you joined us, man, all the way from where you are. I really am. And like I say, we've always tried this tonight to try to scratch the surface, because this thing is really deep. And if you remember the movie, The Matrix, and when Morpheus meets Neo and he gives him the opportunity to choose his pill, this class is going to do that same thing to you. You're going to be given an opportunity to choose your pill, because the reality is what you have been believing all your life and what the law actually says and how it actually reads and how it actually applies will give you the opportunity to determine whether or not you want to be free or you want to remain a slave. The choice will be yours.
All right.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, my brother.
All right. And with that said, everybody have a great week.
You too.
Rest of you all, I will see Sunday.
All right, everybody, take care.
God
Okay.
bless everyone.
You too.
Bye.
Everybody.
Bye.
All right, good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.